So on to the upgrades, which is the job in hand that I'm doing at the moment. As I mentioned before, the PC's been absolutely fine for everything else I've done on it, for the audio work, music, everything like that. It's been brilliant. It's only when I've started doing these videos, and particularly editing the videos, that I've felt the bottlenecks in speed and the shortcoming. So what I noticed was it was taking ages to process the videos because obviously I didn't have a dedicated graphics processor in. That's a new item, and with the size of video files, not only the ones that you've recorded on the camera, but then when you're editing them, the software creates other files that are quite big, and then that gets rendered down to another file which is quite big. So for video editing you can't have enough storage space, and this is the second time now I've had to increase my disk size to cope with that. So hopefully this time round I'll be able to go a little bit longer without having to do some more updates. So what have I done for these upgrades? These particularly for video editing, that's the reason why I've done these. As I say, I can't stress enough, what I had originally from 10 years ago was absolutely fine for my music work. There was no issues whatsoever. This is purely for video editing. So the first thing as an emergency was the disk size. I got to the point where I couldn't do any more videos because I didn't have enough space on my disks without deleting the old ones. I didn't want to delete the old ones even though they're on YouTube. I like to keep my own copy of them, and preferably a backup copy of them, just in case anything happens, so that I can always re-upload them, or I haven't lost the work that I've already done. So a tip for you, whether you're doing video or audio or just writing letters, always have a backup copy of your work, because if you lose it, you're starting from scratch and you won't be able to get it back. Various ways of doing backups I'm not going to talk about in detail now. Do a Google for yourself, but always have a backup copy of your work. So with the discs, what I've got now, hopefully this will keep me going for a while. My main disc that I'm using, so for my Windows, for my operating system, I'm going to put that on an SSD, solid state drive, which is one of the faster drives you can get. They're faster than the normal magnetic spinning drives. They're the old style void discs, so they're a lot faster in performance terms. So I've gone for SSD for the main drive that's going to contain Windows. That's about 250 gigabytes. It's not that big because SSDs are still quite expensive compared to the normal drives. I've got a second SSD of the same size, 250 gigabytes. That's going to be what I would call a working drive, so my projects in work are going to be on that, which is going to give me good access speed, both for my Windows, my applications, and for the projects that I'm doing at the moment. I'm sorry if that sounds a bit technical, but it's the way that I've learned to organise it over the years for best performance. And on top of that, because those drives aren't too big, I've only got 500 gig combined with those two drives. I've also now got two standard hard disk drives, the old-fashioned sort, of 1 terabyte each. Now my plan is to have one of those as my main data storage drive until it fills up, and the other one as my backup drive, which I'm hoping I'll set up to be an exact mirror copy of the data drive, so that if one of those drives fails, all of my work still will remain on the other drive. So I've got that little bit of redundancy there, so that I'm not at risk of losing touch wood, so that if something happens I've got a better chance of getting my work back, because I really don't want to lose the work that I've already done, and if you're in the same situation I won't want you to either. I'm going to talk about stuff outside the computer later, but in terms of that backing up thing and making sure you're not going to lose your work, I just really quickly mentioned I've also got an external hard drive which is 2 terabytes, so that's the size of both my data and my backup drives combined, so I can now and again plug that in and copy everything to my external drive. So I've got another copy of it, so if this PC, touch wood, someday overheats and the whole thing inside it melts and all the drives go, I've still got another copy of my work on a separate drive elsewhere. It happened to me years and years ago. I was doing a uni course and I had loads of uni work on it when I was young. and I didn't take it back up seriously, and I lost all my work and had to do it again. And that's the last time that I didn't take it back up seriously. So yes, it costs you more and more drives, but you just got to think, all right, I'm paying extra. That external drive I got second hand, it was only 60 quid, and that's going to back up everything from my computer. So for me, for 60 quid, that's a price I'm prepared to pay to be able to have that extra level of peace of mind. So that's my storage. That was the main concern. Without that, I wouldn't have been able to continue making videos. The graphics card, as we call it, or the GPU, I think they call them nowadays. Usually those type of things they're used for gaming, to give you better game performance. That means you'll have more detail on your screen, and the game will run faster because the screen will update more frequently, because it's a lot faster processor than what's built into the computer that I've been using. Now, I don't use it I don't play games. I've never played a game on this PC, so I've no need for doing that. But because I was just using the on-board, as we call it, the motherboard processor and stuff, editing the video files was taking absolutely ages. Now, that wasn't as much a problem as the storage, because once I've done the edits that I want to do, so for this video, for example, if I make a mistake and have to re-record a section, or I want to record something and put it in, and do those kind of cuts and edits, once I'm happy with what I've created, then I can press finish or render and just leave the computer to do it. I can go and get a cup of tea or go for a walk or whatever I want to do, I don't really watch TV, but you get the impression. I can just leave it doing that to its own devices, but it was taking hours and hours and hours to do that. So having looked into it, I did a little bit of Googling and research, and it so happened that if you put one of these gaming graphics adapters, GPUs, into the computer, then that could help you to do that kind of processing a lot quicker. Now, there's a couple of caveats there. They're not cheap, these things. I'm lucky I happen to have one of these things left over from another project to do with cryptocurrencies, but I'm not going to talk about that now. But I had some of these graphics adapters, GPUs left over, so this one was sat there in a box doing nothing, so I thought, well, there's no harm in trying it. So I got a little bit more enthusiastic about the idea of putting that into the computer and seeing if it made any difference. This particular one, if it means anything to anybody, it's a RTX3060 Ti, which I think the Ti means titanium. So if you're a gamer, that's probably a pretty pants card. I know there's a lot better ones out there now, but it wasn't bought for gaming reasons, and it was lying about, so it was better than what I had. So I've put that in there now. There's another benefit to that. It's got dual display port adapters on it, which enables me now to run a 2-monitor setup, which is a lot better for editing. But I'll talk about the external stuff again later. But that's a accidental benefit of that GPU being installed. Now, previously, I'm going to know the video software, but previously I've been using Windows Video Editor, the basic software in Windows, just to do my videos, because it was simple. It didn't have much of a learning curve. I'm not a software expert, I'm a guitar player, so it was really easy for me to use. But I found the limits of that now that I want to do more camera shots and try and make my videos better. So I want to try and use some better quality software that I'm going to have to learn to use, and practice makes perfect. So once this is back together, I'm going to have a go at using some better software. But again, I'll talk about software later. But the point I'm making is, even just using the basic Windows Video Editor, it was taking quite a long time. My last, I put this card in about a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago, and my last few videos, maybe 10 or 15 videos, I've used the processing power of that card to create them, and I was astonished at how much faster it was. It literally was processing these videos in seconds. Now, I know if I go to more complicated software and more camera angles and stuff like that, it's not going to be that quick. But just like for like comparison, something that was taking, let's say, 30 minutes to process, it was probably doing it in 5 minutes, or not much more than 5 minutes. So it was a lot faster than what I already had. In terms of the GPUs, it's important to have them set up right, and by that I mean they can be quite noisy. When this was used for its original purpose, I didn't care about the noise because I wasn't sat next to it, but it can, if it's working full tilt, be quite noisy. But the company that produced the drivers for it, drivers are things that make sure that it works properly. There's like software apps that make sure that your hardware works properly. The company Nvidia, they have an alternate set of drivers that aren't for gaming use, they're for media creation use. I think they're called studio drivers. So after a bit of research, I downloaded those. They give you quite a bit of flexibility as well as performance, and also I know that when you're working with big cards like this, you can always make adjustments and throttle down the power level to make sure that it's not running too loud or too noisy, too hot, and not going to ruin the recording experience. Doesn't really matter for the rendering of files because I can just leave it running, and if I throttle down the power, all that's going to happen is it's going to take slightly longer to process it. That's all it's going to do. So far so good what I've seen from it. We'll see what happens going forward when I move to some more sophisticated software, and hopefully I'm able to produce some better quality videos for you, and hopefully I can produce a lot more of those videos for you without running out of hard disk space again. So sorry if this has been boring, it's all PC tech stuff. I'm going to put the thing back together now and do some software stuff. I'll drop some more videos about my setup, what's outside of the computer as soon as possible. I've got some other stuff connected to it as well that might be of interest for other media creators, and we'll take it from there. But in the meantime, enjoy.